At number 10, Kanye West. Most people see Kanye West as a little too extra. He's caused scandals like his VMA interruption with Taylor Swift, his comments about George W. Bush, as well as many other instances that have just rubbed people the wrong way. To add to that, he's reportedly very hard to work with. During filming of Anchorman 2, Kanye came on set for a brief appearance in the film, and though he played a small part, he left a big impression on the cast and crew, and it wasn't positive. Apparently, after Kanye wrapped on set, he refused to leave. He could have just gone home after he finished his scenes, but he decided to stick around. That's fine if you want to stay and watch other people's performances, but that's not exactly what Kanye did. Instead, he hung around set blasting music so loudly that it disrupted filming. People tried to get him to just leave, but he wouldn't. I think it's safe to say that if a third Anchorman movie were to happen, Kanye just would not be welcomed back. At number 9, Lea Michele. Lea Michele was exposed in 2020 for her Hollywood mean streak and for her terrible on-set behavior. This all came out following a tweet from former Glee co-star Samantha Ware, where she let the world know how horrible it was to work with Lea. The actress is now described as, quote, callous, rude, mean, and even a diva. But following Samantha's exposure of the Broadway star, other people have come forward with their own testimonies regarding Lea and her mean streak. There have been stories of Lea's microaggressions, but also stories of her spitting in craft service food that she doesn't like, refusing to work with people because they didn't know her middle name, requesting reshoots because she didn't like her costume, disrespecting other castmates, and having crew members apologize on her behalf, and so many other frustrating tidbits that just really show how rude and entitled she's been known to be. No one wants to work with her after learning about how much of a nightmare she can be on set. Before we carry on talking about the celebrities who are just the worst people to work with on set, why not take a moment to leave a like on this video if you're enjoying it so far, and while you're at it, consider subscribing to the channel to see more videos like this one. At number 8, Julia Roberts. Even though Julia Roberts seems like a nice person, it turns out that she's a nightmare on set. Ironically, she's almost always cast as nice and endearing characters, but there's seemingly much more to Julia than meets the eye. Apparently, she's known to have a pretty bad attitude on set, which can make working with her an unpleasant experience. In 1991, on the set of the Peter Pan film Hook by Steven Spielberg, Julia earned the on-set nickname Tinkerhell as a play on her character Tinkerbell. She earned this moniker based on the production staff's perception of the actress. Apparently, during filming, she would constantly show up to set late, and even when she was on set, she would lock herself in her trailer for hours on end. She also reportedly treated people badly, and she would never apologize for her mean actions or behavior. Julia was truly the opposite of the pixie she was playing. At number 7, Mike Myers. Does anyone else remember the Cat in the Hat live action film from 2003 starring Mike Myers? I certainly do. It was very cringy, but in a good way, since I was a kid back then and I found everything unbelievably hilarious. I enjoyed that movie as a kid, but one person who didn't enjoy it was the Cat in the Hat himself, Mike Myers. After the success of Austin Powers, Mike was set to bump up his comedy and star in a production based on one of his old characters. But before that was all carried out, the actor and the studio got into some debates, and there was legal trouble. It was all just unnecessary drama. Well, they both ended up reaching an agreement, and it obligated Mike to star in the Cat in the Hat movie. He never wanted to sign up for that, and he really made it known how badly he didn't want to be there. According to people who worked with him on set during filming of the Cat in the Hat, Mike was very rude and dismissive, and he refused to talk to anyone. He became a hermit and a diva apparently, and this whole experience and subsequent film were all so bad that Dr. Seuss's widow said that she would never allow Hollywood to make another movie based on one of Seuss's books again. At number 6, Emma Roberts. Emma Roberts has had quite a few on-set feuds with co-stars. She's had drama with Gabri Sidibe, Ariana Grande, and Evan Peters, but the biggest feud that she's had was with Lea Michele on the set of Scream Queens. According to sources, Emma Roberts and Lea Michele had one strong attribute in common, and that was the fact that they were both divas, so while they were working together, they butt heads with each other quite often. Apparently, their fighting got so bad while filming, actress Jamie Lee Curtis had to step in and mediate the hostile situation between Emma and Lea because she was so fed up with their constant bickering while they were trying to work. It was also reported that the actresses would constantly have mean girl moments, making rude and catty comments towards each other almost daily. Rumors of this feuding between them were pretty common in entertainment news while Scream Queens was still in production, showing that things never really died down between the two actresses. It seemed like Emma just caused a heck of a lot of drama with a lot of people on set. At number 5, Shia LaBeouf. Shia LaBeouf has really been going through it in Hollywood. He kind of has a bad reputation now because of the conflicts that he's been in, the latest of which got him fired from a movie. Because of his bad attitude and clashes on set, the actor was fired by Olivia Wilde from the upcoming film Don't Worry Darling. It was announced in late fall of 2020 that Harry Styles would be replacing Shia in the film, and now we know that it was due to Shia's alleged bad behavior, as people have cited that the actor was, quote, not an easy guy to work with. It was alleged that there was some kind of conflict between him and Olivia Wilde as well, and the fact that other cast and crew members didn't like working with him, Shia was let go. Getting fired is always a negative thing, but in Hollywood, when a lot of your work involves other relationships with other actors and having connections, having a bad experience that was enough to get you fired can ultimately burn that bridge and result in you having less work. At number 4, Ben Stiller. A lot of people think of Ben Stiller as this super funny guy in Hollywood, but just because someone seems great in the public eye doesn't mean that's how they really are behind closed doors. It seems as though Ben Stiller is a nightmare in disguise because he's a tough guy to work with and he causes a lot of trouble on set. People who know or have worked with Ben in the past have exposed some of his bad behavior on set, and it's kind of shocking. According to those who worked with him on the set of the film Tropic Thunder, he was very controlling and mean to just about everyone there. He even reportedly had a meltdown on set when someone brought him his Diet Coke and it didn't have exactly 2 ice cubes in it. He even had someone fired because they didn't put enough sugar in his coffee. On top of that, Ben even forced his assistant to stand out in the parking lot in his designated parking space, even though it already had a sign saying that it was reserved. And to make matters even more hectic, Ben also freaked out on a female assistant he had, going so far as to refuse to come back to set until she was replaced by a male assistant. If all of this madness happened on just one film set, who knows what other shenanigans have gone on elsewhere with him. At number 3, Chevy Chase. Chevy Chase is known for being in National Lampoon and the show Community, but is also known around Hollywood as being kind of a jerk and starting drama with the people that he works with. There are a bunch of articles, books, and interviews of people talking about their experiences with the actor and how mean he can be. There are even stories in the book Live from New York that detail the times Chase has been mean to staff, writers, interns, and other hosts. Will Ferrell and Bill Murray are among those who have taken a disliking to Chase because of the way that he's treated others. Will Ferrell has said that he doesn't like Chevy because of the way that he treats some female staff members, and Bill Murray and Chevy Chase even got into a brawl backstage of SNL back in the day, where they said some pretty hurtful things to each other because they were kind of comedy rivals on the show. Chevy just doesn't get along with everyone, and he said it's because his fame went to his head, but something tells me that's not the only reason why he starts drama. At number 2, Bill Murray. Bill Murray already has a pretty bad reputation in Hollywood for his poor on-set behavior, so it's no surprise to me to find out that he's had some serious drama with one of his castmates on the set of Charlie's Angels. While filming the movie, Bill Murray was said to have antagonized actress Lucy Liu. When watching the film, you'd think that they were all good friends and on good terms, but in reality, that was quite the opposite. The film set was sort of a hostile environment that caused Bill to take a disliking towards Lucy. Turns out Bill would insult Lucy's talent and acting ability, and on one occasion even said, quote, "I get why you're here, you've got talent, but what in the hell are you doing here? You can't act." Apparently the harassment and bullying got so bad at one point that Lucy tried throwing punches at Bill during one scene because his insults got so bad. This antagonizing went on for the entire duration of the production, and Bill kept on berating Lucy about her presence on set and calling her unprofessional as well. This drama was just so unnecessary. And finally, at number 1, Sharon Osbourne. Talk show host Sharon Osbourne faced a lot of backlash last year after making comments about Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. Sharon and her former co-host Cheryl Underwood got into a pretty heated argument surrounding Piers Morgan's remarks on Meghan Markle. During this feud, Sharon backed up Piers' comments about Meghan Markle's mental health, and this really frustrated a lot of people because many felt as though what was being said was going a little too far. As a result of the remarks that Sharon made, she was called a racist, and a number of other accusations came out about how she's used various slurs in the past when talking about her other co-hosts on the show. As a result of this, the network that they worked for launched an internal investigation to look into the allegations against Sharon, and that ended with Sharon being let go from the show. At number 10, Hugh Grant. Hugh was once banned from The Daily Show after having a really bad interview that really affected the show's host because the actor was being so rude. Jon Stewart, the former host of The Daily Show, said in an interview that Hugh Grant was the absolute worst guest he'd had on the show. He spoke about how when Hugh was on to promote his film Did You Hear About the Morgans, Hugh was making a huge scene backstage and was just being really mean and annoying to the people who were working on set. Apparently, Hugh was allegedly going around saying that he had better places to be. He also got really upset about the clip that they played from the film, saying, quote, "What is that clip? It's a terrible clip," to which Jon replied, telling Hugh to make a better movie. You could really tell that Jon was fed up with Hugh and his attitude on the show. Jon went on to say that because of his poor experience with Hugh, he'd never have him back on his show. At number 9, Harmony Korine. I think it's an unspoken rule that when you're a guest somewhere, you should try to be on your best behavior. One person who really should have followed this rule is director Harmony Korine, who's best known for the movie Spring Breakers. There was once a time when Harmony made a number of appearances on The Late Show with David Letterman in the mid to late 90s. This was also during a time when Harmony was reportedly on a lot of drugs. Though he was a frequent guest on the show, his appearances just stopped all of a sudden, and no one really knew why until 2013 when Letterman revealed the truth as to why the director was banned from coming on the show. Apparently, Letterman caught the director going through Meryl Streep's purse one time, and that was just the last straw for the late night host. When talking about this fateful event, Letterman said, quote, "I went upstairs to greet Meryl Streep and welcome her to the show. I knocked on the door and she was not there. I looked around and saw Harmony going through her purse. True story. And so I said, that's it, put her things back in her bag and get out." End quote. After that, Harmony was no longer welcome on the show and hasn't been back since. Before we carry on talking about these rude celebrities, why not take a moment to leave a like on this video if you're enjoying it so far, and while you're at it, consider subscribing to the channel to see more videos like this one. At number 8, Bobcat Goldthwait. I think this goes without saying, but don't go setting fire to things. Back in 1994, actor Bobcat Goldthwait was a guest on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno, and during his guest appearance, the actor decided to just randomly set fire to his chair. At the time, Jay thought this was just a spontaneous bit, but in reality, Bobcat came prepared for this as he brought lighter fluid and a lighter that was hidden up his sleeve. Luckily, the other guest who was there that night, Lauren Hutton, was quick on her feet and doused the flames with a cup of water. Jay, understandably, was very unhappy with all this and banned Bobcat from the show. Not only that, but the actor was also charged with arson for this stunt and was ordered to pay over $3,300 in fines, some of which went towards replacing the chair he set fire to. He literally damaged the set, and if that's not rude, then I don't know what is. At number 7, Piers Morgan. I feel like when a celebrity asks for something specific, it should be given to them. I'm not talking about anything material like demanding a cup of ice chips or something. I mean a specific request in reference to the way that they're treated. For actor Kelsey Grammer, he made a very specific request when he was doing an interview with Piers Morgan, and when that request wasn't honored, there was a falling out that led to the actor being banned from the show because of the drama. When the actor made a guest appearance on Piers Morgan Tonight back in 2012, he requested that a picture of his ex-wife not be shown. He's willing to answer questions about her, but just didn't want to have a photo of her to be aired. Well, Piers didn't exactly honor that request, and when a photo of the ex-wife was shown, Kelsey stormed off set. The actor's publicist said that Piers had to take accountability for his actions because Kelsey was so mad about the situation, but instead, Piers barred the actor from his show. That was pretty rude of him. At number 6, Gene Simmons. I think we can all agree that Gene Simmons is kind of outlandish. He's a guy with a lot of energy and no filter, so when it comes to interviewing him live, you never know what he might say, but you can only hope that it won't be too offensive. At one point, the singer was a Fox favorite, making regular appearances on their programming where they would discuss hot topics in the world and would share their opinions on things. They liked the guy and liked having him on their show, but after causing a stir during a meeting at Fox and making some rude comments towards some of the other staff members, Gene got banned for life, and it was a hot topic of its own. Some of the things that Gene said to some of the women at the network got leaked, and it's not something you would want to have said to you. Let's just put it that way. After all of that went down, the singer was not welcomed back on their programming because they didn't like the way he behaved. At number 5, Sharon Osbourne. Talk show host Sharon Osbourne found herself in some hot water earlier last year after she made some comments about Meghan Markle and Prince Harry that not only caused her to get backlash, but also lose a friend. Sharon Osbourne and Cheryl Underwood got into a heated argument surrounding Piers Morgan's comments about Meghan Markle. During this feud, Sharon backed up Pierce's comments about Meghan Markle's mental health, and this frustrated Cheryl because she didn't like the comments that were being made about those involved. The two got into a very heated debate that ended with a lot of drama, sparking a conversation about Sharon's ideals. She was called a racist, and a number of other accusations came out about how she's used various slurs in the past when talking about her other co-hosts. As a result of this, the network for their show launched an internal investigation, and that ended with Sharon being let go from the show. At number 4, Kelly Osbourne. Now, we just talked about Sharon Osbourne and her talk show scandal, but her daughter Kelly has also been in her share of controversies, including one that happened while on a talk show that kind of ruined her career because of a rude comment that she made. During an episode of The View, Kelly Osbourne really missed the mark when trying to clap back at Donald Trump, even though she was trying to diss Trump, and ended up getting in enough trouble herself. Just shortly before this episode aired, Donald Trump, who was at the time only a presidential nominee, was saying offensive things about the Latinx community and how he wanted to deport them. I'm sure we're all familiar with this one. Well, in a very poor attempt at clapping back at Trump's racist comments, Kelly said, quote, "If you kick every Latina out of this country, then who's going to be cleaning your toilet, Donald Trump?" What Kelly was trying to do was defend the Latinx community, but rather than stand up for them, she ended up offending them even more, as her remarks were interpreted as saying that the Latinx community is only good for being housekeepers, as depicted in many racial stereotypes. After facing so much backlash and realizing the gravity of her words, Kelly issued an apology saying, quote, "I want to start by saying I always take responsibility for my actions. In this particular case, I will take responsibility for my poor choice of words, but I will not apologize for being a racist, as I am not." At number 3, James Corden. Recently, TV host James Corden found himself in some trouble with fans after his Spill Your Guts segment of his show started facing backlash. Fans were calling for James to take accountability after he made some comments about some Asian foods that he had on the show that some fans thought were offensive. Because the foods that they use in the Spill Your Guts segment are supposed to be ones that you wouldn't eat, the fact that some Asian foods like balut were used and called, quote, "disgusting," made a lot of people take to the internet to call for accountability and an apology from James Corden. Apparently, James had been making these types of comments about a lot of different Asian dishes on a few occasions, so some people have said enough is enough and even created a petition calling for the removal of the Spill Your Guts segment. At number 2, Mark Summers. When it comes to talk shows, sometimes you can never predict what's gonna happen. These shows are often used to catch up with a celebrity and just talk about life and whatnot, but sometimes these conversations can turn into brawls when the wrong thing is said, and this is pretty much what happened between Burt Reynolds and Mark Summers in 1994 when they were both guests on Jay Leno's talk show. The two men got into a heated brawl after some jokes were made that offended the both of them. Essentially, Mark Summers made a comment about how he was still married, while Burt at the time was going through a divorce, and it made Burt pretty upset. In retaliation, Burt threw some water at Mark, and that's what sparked the fight. It gets to the point where Jay Leno just can't keep the show together because his guests were fighting so much, and producers even went so far as to bring out pies for Mark and Burt to make it look like this fight was staged. After this, people got talking, and some people came to the conclusion that this brawl was uncalled for, and since Mark started it, he felt the most backlash. And finally, at number 1, Ellen. In late 2019, actress Dakota Johnson sat down for an interview with Ellen, and some people see this interview as the one that started this whole Ellen is mean scandal because of how rude Ellen was. During the interview, Ellen berated Dakota about the fact that she wasn't invited to Dakota's birthday party. People saw this whole debate as incredibly unnecessary, but the part that people loved the most was how Dakota shut Ellen down. When Ellen said that she was mad for not being invited to Dakota's birthday party, Dakota in response said, quote, "Actually no, that's not the truth, Ellen, you were invited. No, last time when I was on the show last year, you gave me a bunch of crap about not inviting you, but I didn't even know you wanted to be invited." End quote. Dakota was even backed up by one of the show's producers who reassured Ellen that she was invited and that she just didn't show up because at the time, she claimed that Dakota's Malibu party was, quote, "a little too far for her." Dakota shutting Ellen down and not being made to look like the bad guy Ellen intended was great for fans, and following Ellen's cancellation, fans started to realize just how rude Ellen was.
And at number 10, Oprah. This is one that was incredibly shocking to me because Oprah is one of the most beloved people in the world, and other celebrities are constantly singing her praises, sharing how down-to-earth and nice Oprah is in real life. But it seems that Oprah might act a little differently when the cameras are not rolling, or when she's not talking to another celebrity. A waiter that served Oprah for lunch shared their eye-rolling encounter with the TV host. They wrote on Reddit, quote, Oprah didn't tip me on a $200 lunch. Instead, she signed a napkin for me and acted like she was doing me a huge favor. The kicker was when she walked in, they gave away all of my other tables so she didn't have to wait for anything. So I made $4 an hour for 2 hours for the privilege of serving Oprah. And she went on and on about signing a napkin that I never even asked for. It still makes me so mad when I hear that celebrities do not tip. Like, Oprah is a billionaire. She can afford to tip. It's so outrageous. And at number 9, Chevy Chase. This one is less of a shock because it's well known that Chevy Chase is not the greatest guy, although he plays lovable characters on screen. Many of his former SNL castmates have spoken out against him, and he was even banned from the show for his problematic behavior. One Reddit user shared that he is just as awful in real life. They wrote, quote, "I saw Chevy Chase at a hotel once as a small 9-year-old, and I love the National Lampoon's Vacation movies. When I asked for his autograph, he verbally went off on me. When my dad came over, he went off on him. He said something messed up, which is that my dad wasn't raising me right. The dude is a straight up jerk." And at number 8, Randy Jackson. Randy Jackson is another star I only ever heard good things about. He was known for being the good guy on American Idol compared to Simon Cowell, who was notoriously savage towards contestants. But this might be another case of a celebrity being completely two-faced, acting nice and friendly while on camera, but being completely different when cameras are not rolling. One Reddit user shared a behind-the-scenes look at Randy during a children's hospital event. Quote, "Randy Jackson was invited to a telethon hosted by a hospital for children with disabilities, where my little sister lived until she passed away. Whenever the cameras were off, he'd hide in his hotel room and seem disgusted with the kids. He didn't want anything to do with them. When the cameras were on though, he was all smiles and hugs. It was so disheartening and disappointing to witness. It was over 10 years ago and I still remember it to this day." And at number 7, Carrie Underwood. This one honestly breaks my heart. This person, who has seen a ton of celebrities in their workplace, said that Carrie Underwood was by far the worst. They wrote, quote, "I worked as a maintenance worker at a concert venue for a few summers and I bumped into several celebrities. But Carrie Underwood is the one who sticks out because of how demanding she always was. She refused to use a toilet if someone else had sat on the seat before her, so we had to buy new toilet seats every time she came. Considering how much we already had to fix, the last thing we wanted to do was pointlessly replace perfectly good toilet seats. In contrast, Reba McEntire would always eat lunch with the staff and was always super chill." Can you imagine how entitled you have to be to demand like a new toilet basically? I cannot believe the venue agreed to do that for her. And at number 6, Tyler Perry. Tyler Perry is a famous actor and producer that fans might not know that much about. However, many celebrities have shared just how open-hearted and kind that he is. Specifically, when Meghan Markle and Prince Harry were being interviewed by Oprah Winfrey after leaving the royals, they shared that they were on the verge of being homeless with no security. However, Tyler Perry offered them his LA home to live in, along with giving them security until they were able to work it out. What an amazing guy, right? Well, apparently he doesn't treat normal people as nice. A person who worked to promote Perry's movie Boo! A Madea Halloween in 2016 shared his strange behavior and long list of demands. Apparently Perry flew private to the event with 13 of his staff. They were all forced in the back of the plane while he had the entire front to himself. They added, quote, "His team sent our local agency a long list of demands and rules in anticipation of his arrival. Tyler wanted to be addressed referred to as Mr. Perry. We were prohibited to speak to him directly, only to his team. Room temperature orange Gatorade had to be in his green room. Furniture wasn't allowed in his press interview suite. All media and press had to travel to him. Mr. Perry would not leave the hotel, and he wouldn't wait for anyone." The person added that his entire team seemed terrified of him. Halfway number 5, Nicki Minaj. Nicki Minaj is a celebrity with mixed reviews. Tons of people say she's down to earth and loves her fans, while others have shared some negative experiences with the star. One person shared their experience working with Minaj on set, writing, quote, "I worked with Nicki Minaj before, and while on a set with her, I was told not to look her in the face. She also had people move out of the room before she would come in the room. It was a whole ordeal." And at number 4, Miles Teller. Miles Teller being on this list should not be a shock to anyone, because he is constantly called out for his horrible behavior. Even reporters that have interviewed him have called him entitled and rude. He's even trashed well-loved and respected actors like John Cusack. When a reporter told him they are similar actors, Teller replied, quote, "I guess we look alike. We did some similar movies. He wasn't traditionally good looking, who was offbeat and quirky but confident. I get it, but I don't want his career." And people who have met him in real life have had similar experiences. They wrote, quote, "I met Miles Teller at a bar. He told my friend to buy him a drink and he still refused to take a picture with him. He ended up smacking my phone out of my hand hand, and I'll never watch a movie with him in it again. And at number 3, Jim Belushi. One fan shared just how terrible Jim Belushi was to them after they waited hours for an autograph. To make it worse, one of Belushi's co-stars was incredibly nice and made the contrast even worse. They wrote, quote, "Years ago us kids waited for Jim Belushi and John Candy after they shot Only the Lonely in Chicago. Asked Belushi for an autograph and he literally called us a bunch of pieces of stupid kids and to get the F out of there. Then came Candy with a big old smile and a cigar hanging out of his mouth, and he spent the next 10 minutes signing autographs and thanking all of his fans." And at number 2, Alec Baldwin. Given all the scandals that Alec Baldwin has been in, it's no surprise that he's notoriously rude. He's attacked paparazzi, gotten in physical fights with hecklers, and he's been known to be very arrogant. One Reddit user spoke of their interaction and wrote, quote, "One day in the Hamptons I ran into Alec Baldwin and his wife and their 2 dogs. I was 6, so I wanted to pet their dogs. Mind you, they left their dogs outside of the store so I didn't know they were theirs. They quickly yanked their dogs away from me and yelled at me. I was 6. That just proves the kind of people they are. I mean, who gets mad at a kid for petting a dog that you left outside? And finally, at number 1, Gene Simmons. Gene Simmons is apparently so awful in real life, multiple Reddit users shared negative experiences with him. One user said, quote, "My brother met Gene Simmons backstage at a show he was playing in. Gene complimented my brother highly on his guitar playing, but then said, quote, 'Too bad you'll never make it,' and just walked away." Another person told the story of his dad running into Simmons after one of his Kiss shows. The dad complimented Simmons on the show, and he replied, quote, "I hope the next time you're sucking to impress someone you pucker up more," and then walked off. My dad was pissed and told his friends it was time to go, and the bartender stopped them on their way out. Before he left, Gene and his entourage told the bartender that my dad was paying for their drinks. It cost my dad almost $100 to pay for their alcohol.